Brian Morgenstern served in the Trump administration Treasury Department, joins us now. Brian, where's my money?
Leland, it's good to see you.
You too.
I want to take you back in time to March of 2020. The coronavirus pandemic was ravaging the country and the world. And the government, because we needed to stop the overwhelming of the hospitals and the healthcare system, we halted travel. We basically told the airlines that they weren't allowed to function, and all the revenue went away basically overnight. We were looking at hundreds of thousands of employees being out of work. We were looking at an industry critical to our national security and to our economy, basically going belly up. So what happened was we gave them grants and loans to keep their employees employed. And they had to use the money for that reason, or else the government could go in and claw it back and penalize them. Some of it was grants, some of it was loans.
Right. I don't think anybody is disputing that desperate times called for desperate measures, and that needed to be done. The question is, why weren't these controls put in place? Why was there not a tougher deal made with the airlines that they had, that we would get stock, that they would have to pay back these loans, that you couldn't have dividends going forward until the money was paid back? That only seems fair to the taxpayer.
And many of those controls were put in place, Leland. We did put in no dividends, no buybacks. We limited executive compensation for the duration of the loans. Many of those controls were in place.
Right, but you yourself said there were a bunch of, we're talking 75% grants, 25% loans.
That was the one specific program, the payroll support program. That's what we ended up negotiating. And we received huge blowback from the airlines and their unions for even requiring the 25% to be in loans. They really wanted all grants. We negotiated at least the loans, and we put in the restrictions on comp, the restrictions on buybacks, the restrictions on dividends.
Right, but
we did have
all those are gone
a lot
now,
of those provisions
right?
in
And
there.
there was no provision that said in the future, let me turn it around. What is the incentive now for the airline CEOs now looking forward to create rainy day funds, to not just go crazy on buybacks, to not go crazy on bonuses if they know every time there's a recession, the government is going to come bail them out?
There could be stronger ones, but here's the actual answer is during the duration of the programs where we were keeping the employees attached to their jobs, keeping the airlines ready to emerge from the pandemic, they did have very strong restrictions on compensation, on buybacks, and on dividends. So I think the disincentive is if they're going to take another bailout, then they are going to be restricted during that period of time. You could have stronger restrictions, certainly. But there are disincentives there because once they emerge into the post-pandemic world and they're no longer using the government funds to pay their employees, then they can go back, to the good times being here again.
That's what Scott Kirby
agree. A rainy day fund would be great. They should absolutely have a rainy day fund.
I still don't understand. What I'm trying to get at is that, yes, those were desperate times, but it was desperate times in 2008 when you had the bank bailouts. And when you had the bailout of General Motors, and the terms that were negotiated then were so much tougher than what was negotiated on the airlines back in 2020.
I think there's a critical difference, which is that, well, first of all, they were harsher in some ways and not in others. But the key difference here was that
the big difference was
the government was forcing the airlines to shut down. They were basically eliminating all of their revenue overnight. And so the government paid to keep the employees, at least, attached to their jobs, attached to the airlines.
Looking forward, we all love to hate the airlines. Bill O'Reilly was on last night about how the airlines now are making all this money. They can't wait to delay flights. We also have seen the problems that happened last summer. Predictions are the problems this summer are going to be tougher. Why is it that there seems to be a loathing by any administration to penalize the airlines and to hold them in account in a way that's actually meaningful in good times or in bad times? Why are they so special?
Okay, so very interesting question. Let me answer it by taking it in a slightly different direction. Number one, the industry is very critical to our national security, to our supply chains, to our economy. As to why they get really favorable treatment in Washington, the answer is that they have an extremely effective lobby. And in addition to the business side lobby, Their union lobby is extremely effective, very loud. They get meetings with everybody. They give across the party spectrum, by the way.
Yeah.
And I think there's some of the top donors to Chuck Schumer, some of the top donors to Nancy Pelosi. In fairness, my people, the Republicans, receive a lot of donations from them as well. And they have very strong strategic voices who have had very senior positions in government helping lead their organizations. And so they are able to articulate their importance to the U.S. economy very well, very strongly to the policymakers.
Very diplomatically said, Brian. It is good to see you. I still want my money back, but understand why I'm going to be waiting a while. Thank you, my friend. It was good to see you. Thanks for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.